Chapter 6 The Waiting Room. The Firebird and the rest stood in a rusty room and were miserable from the recent capture. Their prison had a decayed aroma, accompanied by a deep hum as fully bright lights beamed down on them. If they were placed in a dark room, Mino would have had the ability to rip the floor off and go on their merry way. Yet she, her companions, and the ship, they would end up falling over 50 meters high from the ground. Wouldn't end well. At the very least, that's what she assumed. But jumping to any conclusion without understanding the full situation wouldn't make her any better than her bodyguard. Which reminded her. "How's the kid?" asked Mino. "Quiet, but alive." Emmy crossed her arms, as Oros sat a distance away from the two. "But maybe you should put your attention on something else, Captain." "We're still doing this," Mino thought to herself. A strong part of her wanted another round of bickering. Such disrespect couldn't be ignored. But alas, she was far more curious about their predicament, and shifted the topic. "From the looks of it, we're finally receiving some help after the crash." Emily sneered, parroting the word. "Help? Please. They could have killed us the moment they started firing." Despite her bodyguard's hot-headed nature, Mino couldn't help but agree. Yes, despite their way of helping being overkill, we did manage to avoid more conflicts with the locals. The Night Witch smacked her lips and continued. Yet they were the ones who knocked us down here in the first place. Emmy was left perplexed. And how did they control those rocks? "Artificial asteroids," remarked Mino. "Huh, that tracks," Emmy said, unsurprised. "And whatever the reason why they want us all of a sudden," Mino placed her index finger on her chin. "Let's assume it's for a good reason." A grin grew on Emmy's expression. "And assumptions can make it very funny, Emmy." Mino cuts her bodyguard off. "They don't need a good reason." Oros trailed off, trembling with frustration at the woman's ignorance. Mino and Emmy's attention shifted to the young Cergon. The two glared at each other as to who would question his statement. "Pardon?" Mino broke the silence and raised an eyebrow, curious about the young Cergon's comment. Oros swiftly retaliated. "They're monsters. They don't care if they're doing the most heinous shit in the system." Oros raised his voice, which took Mino by surprise. "Everyone here would turn a blind eye to their actions and treat us like cattle." "For what, exactly?" Mino continued questioning. The rebellious Cergon's frustration grew the longer he thought on the topic. "Like I'd know! I was one of the lucky ones!" Emmy chimed in, though it wasn't much of a helpful interjection. "Seems like your luck ran out then." Oros fumed like a teapot, trembling with anger that would boil over. He stomped over to Emmy. "It's your fault I got caught!" The bratty Cergon accusingly brandished his finger right near her face. "It's your fault you decided to wake me up." Emmy retorted back, her gaze trained on Oros. "Just stick close to me and you'll be fine." "So you'll step up as a bodyguard for him?" Mino thought to herself, a mixture of offense and confusion. "And lower my guard to you? As if! I should kill you for dragging me here." Without hesitation, Oros raised and swung his dagger on Emmy's chest. However, Emmy remained still as she shined her crimson eyes. Her tan skin faded into a stone texture. When the knife made contact, it scraped off her. Not even a tear was made on the kitty shirt. Oros was confused by the result, but decided to continue jabbing down on the bodyguard, expecting different results. The repetitive tink grated Mino as her patience thinned and conjured a shadow limb out of Oros's shadow, and latched onto the draconic fruit, lifting him away from Emmy. "Enough!" the Night Witch announced sharply. Her voice echoed in the room. All the while, Oros panicked from the supernatural occurrence. He struggled to break free from its grasp, but Mino's grip was firm. "You guys have powers?" Oros exclaimed. "Of course we do. We don't go on travels without any means of defense," Mino replied. "But know this, Oros. Getting into a fight with us won't get you anywhere, besides receiving broken bones. Oros glared at Mino, who was hesitant yet furious, then back to Emmy, who cracked her knuckles. He hung his head in surrender. Good. Now, you can sit there and sulk about your situation, or we can help you get out of said situation. Mino gently placed him down on the floor and absolved her shadow hand. We? Who's we? Emmy interjected as her skin reverted back to its tan color. You two could try together, but don't expect me to help out. Excuse me, Mino exclaimed. You heard me. Now buzz off, the both of you. Emmy waved them off. Didn't you just say I'd be fine to stick close to you? Oros shouted back. I meant in a general sense. Stay in somewhat proximity and not in my way. Especially after that little stunt. You're lucky you hardly did anything. With that reply, Oros couldn't help but grimace at the cold response. I feel like I'm surrounded by idiots, he muttered. Afterwards, Emmy returned her focus to Mino. And you, I want an honest apology from you if you want me to help you. An apology? For what? Mino scowled. Giving me shit, that's what. Emmy shot back. Mino scoffed, disbelieving the level of pettiness she had to witness. You've got to be joking. You think I am? I really hope you are. Apologize to you. A small left the Night Witch in response. Don't be absurd. Why should I apologize to someone who didn't report to me? Besides being in your crew, all you did was push me around and blame every shortcoming on me. Emily sharply retorted. Frustration sprinkled her words. You promised I would be treated better than the collective. Instead, I do all your dirty work while you sit on your ass. Mino was irked by the accusation and retaliated via scoffing. I don't sit around like you, Emmy. You should be grateful you're not cooped up in a cryopod. She crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes. And I'm still being ordered by a Ferocian, Emmy uttered coldly. The Night Witch hesitated, as if her bodyguard struck at her gut. It was unfortunate, always associated with her species' craving for control. She seemed to fall into that pit, whether she wanted to or not. I'm sorry that's how you feel. That I cannot change, due to circumstances. Oh, apologize for your existence. Emmy furrowed her brow, but not about the message. Mino chuckled. I don't think you deserve it. With her response, Emmy rolled her eyes, ignorant of her brutish behavior so far. All right, your loss. And with that, she continued looking at the door, expecting who and whatever to come. It left Mino with only the wary young Cergon. It's times like these, Mino wished she had her old team to rely on, but given how things ended in a time far more malevolent than now, some bridges are beyond salvaging. She turned to the young Cergon and began. Well, young man, it looks like it'll be you and me, Oros. Yeah, right. Oros recoiled away from the Night Witch. Like I trust either of you after that shit show. I know you're on edge, but the attitude won't help anyone. Mino's lecture came to a quick halt. Again. Seems like her night was filled with sudden interruptions when she and the rest heard a squeak from the doors sliding open. Out came an army of guards, a variety of aliens attired in body armor, and a golden bug emblem stuck on their right forearm, as they were armed to the brim with energy rifles. Judging by their stance, Mino deduced they didn't seem to be a firing squad. Among them, two figures stood out from the rest. A dwarf-sized Frillilion, a frog-like species whose height was comparable to a Myrim or a 5-year-old back on Earth. It had an extra pair of eyes attached to antennas, which he used to observe the surroundings. He wore a gray outfit with massive shoulder pads sticking out, which was disproportionate to its small frame, and wore several medallions, suggesting they held higher authority. But the one next to him captured the Night Witch's attention. There walked a towering, another lizard-like species, the Skorko, who stood out from the rest of the group. It wasn't just his massive forehead, razor-sharp claws, and tail that gave the impression he's capable of slicing through anything with ease. No, the Skorko's attire caught her eye. Unlike the guard's gray uniform, He wore a black leather vest and leggings, with starry flagtails hung from his waist. Dark, walnut-colored boots with golden spurs on the back of his heel. It reminded Mino of the 18th century of America, except for the Skorko, the fashion style never seemed to dissipate.
"Welcome, welcome,"
the purple Frillilian greeted, as he and the rest had them surrounded.
"I hope you don't mind the intrusions when you were dealing with those fruitful inhabitants."
Speaking of, the lanky Skorko pointed his claw at Oros. "We seem to have a brat on board." The Skorko's insult triggered the young Cergon, and he sprung into action. Oros, brandishing his dagger, storming towards the group as he let out a battle cry. Mino wanted to put a stop before the young Cergon would get killed, but she didn't get the chance to react, as the lanky lizard Skorko roundhouse kicked Oros in the face. Shocked by the sudden attack, a concerned expression was painted on Emmy's face. Mino stood still as she observed the situation and remained cautious of their captors. "What? He was running at us with a knife," the Skorko said nonchalantly, catching Mino's and Emmy's attention away from the unconscious Cergon.
"We hope that little seed didn't cause any harm,"
replied the dwarf frog, a subtle hint of disgust as he narrowed his antenna eyes.
"The locals here can be ferocious to newcomers."
"No harm was done. He was less ferocious." Mino trailed off secretly, and she pitied the young Cergon. "And more of a nuisance, really." "So, what are you going to do with him?" Emmy bluntly questioned.
"He'll be sent to the brig. Guards!"
The short, four-eye Frillilian snapped his finger, gesturing to one of the guards.
"Hopefully by then, some time alone would have taught him not to oppose us."
They picked up Oros's body and exited the rusty room.
"Now, we haven't introduced ourselves, have we?"
The dwarf frog put out his hand.
"Name's Fazboa, head of the Data Control Center, and this is my personal bodyguard, Dusnero."
"Hey," Dusnero said, a quick wave to the other woman. Not wanting to start drama and avoiding shaking hands with the person who may have thrown asteroids at her crew, she made the excuse, "Sorry, my hands are dirty." Seems like it did the trick, as Fazboa put his hand down, looking a tad embarrassed. "We're the night crew of the Firebird, and I'm its captain, Minokawa, but A muffled chuckle was heard from her bodyguard. "Didn't know you were a trucker at one point," Emmy muttered. An annoyed glare was given to her rude crewmate, and Mino returned to face Fazboa. "But my friends call me Mino, and right next to me is my only crewmate, Emmy. I'm just glad you picked up our distress signal."
"Yes, we wouldn't want some helpless travelers dealing with those animals,"
Fazboa explained. "Animals?" Emmy asked. "They're people trying to make the most of what they have." "Mind you," Dusnero began, "these people cause some trouble at our facility most of the time. Besides, you only just came here. You don't know what they're like." Emmy was about to make a rebuttal, but Mino swooped in. "Funny about that. The first impression we had was you running into our asteroids."
"Oh, so you did see the message," remarked Dusnero. "Honestly, that's on you for not replying to the automated message."
"I see." The Night Witch seethed. Even her bodyguard couldn't help but silently agree with the sentiment as Emmy snorted in irritation.
"Anyways, why not discuss somewhere more comfortable?"
Fazboa changed the topic.
"I get the feeling we are approaching our base in a couple of minutes. Would that be fine with you two?"
"Oh, might as well. But if it's any consolation, would it be all right with you to repair our starship?" She presented the damaged Firebird. "I know it's asking a lot, but it would make my life a lot easier." Mino pressed her index fingers together, trying to give a pitiful expression. Fazboa and Dusnero looked at each other, eventually shrugging in unison.
"We have some repairmen and droids to assist us in that department," answered Fazboa. "Just send us the schematics of the ship, and they'll get to work."
"Excellent!" Mino grasped her hands, pleased by these results. Could have just taken a new ship, but hey, who's the captain again? Emmy said. Really, just ditch that old raggedy thing. It's already at its limit. I don't think that can be possible, considering that we have a tight budget. What the hell are you talking about? We should have plenty of credits. Is there a price to pay when fixing our starship? Mino interrupted with another question.
You don't need to have to be so hostile towards each other. We'll give you a 100% discount.
As Desniro replied, Mino could have sworn that Fazboa's eyes gave him a cross look. Huh? How generous. Emmy crossed her arms indignantly.